Okay, so quadratic functions. So I think we mentioned last time, no, time before last, when we first introduced polynomial functions, that quadratic functions were functions of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So these were polynomial functions where the degree is 2. And then we had these cubic functions where the degree was 3, and then quartic, and then you kind of run out of names that you really worry about too much. Quadratic ones are the ones that we'll look at in depth the most because their structure is such that we can find out a lot of information. So that being said, there are 2 forms for quadratic functions that are seen as, I don't want to use the word standard because one of them is called standard form, maybe 2 forms that are common. And so there's this form that's called standard form, which is this form where everything's been expanded all the way out. So we have ax squared plus bx plus c. Notice it's totally expanded all the way out. And you can think of this as like slope-intercept form of a line. And then there's this other form that is called the vertex form, and that will be of the form a times x minus h squared plus k. So this is the vertex form. And, well, kind of looking at it, going from the vertex form to the standard form is not really that big of a thing. You just square out that binomial. I'll just put OK here. You just square out that binomial x minus h squared, and then you do, I don't know, some arithmetic, and you land at standard form. Now going from standard form to vertex form is like a little bit more work. But we'll review what that work is, although I think it's likely you saw it in some sort of class in the past, but I think it's like gone through really quickly, so it's useful to look at kind of carefully. All right, so now you might say, well, why are there 2 forms? And that's because this vertex form can be viewed through the lens of our shifting or translations of graphs, transformations of graphs. So let's notice the following. So maybe we'll just say this is our observation. We can get the graph of the function f of x equals a times x minus h squared plus k by starting with the graph of y equals x squared. So, remember we had that day where we started with a basic graph. We had these couple of basic graphs that we reviewed. There was like a little reading assignment from the textbook to review. And so we started with the graph y equals x squared, and then there was some sort of shifting, right? And shift. So what was the shifting in this case? Right, h, up, k units. And this is like a loose right and up, because if those numbers are negative, right negative units means left, and up negative units means down, right? Okay, so that's the shifting that has occurred, and then it's been stretched by a factor of a. Okay, good. So now what we'd like to see is the following. Let's look at this. So let's draw this graph, And then we want to name some pieces of this graph. Okay, so we're starting with a parent graph, which is this y equals x squared. So maybe we'll put the parent graph in this pink color. So there we have this y equals x squared. And then let's shift it as described. So let's say we go let's say this point right here is h, and let's say this point right here is k. So something like this, right? So this thing is going to go like this. Yeah, so this is y equals. Now, I'm going to put the a in here. I didn't really carefully exhibit the stretching in my picture, but this is how the translation goes. And then we'll recall how the stretching was done before. And then this is important. This is if a is bigger than 0. It's opening up if a is bigger than 0. What happens if a is less than 0? It's going to be flipped, so it's opening down. So here we'll go like this. So this would be the graph y equals a times x minus h squared plus k if a is less than 0. All right. Now, if you recall from before, yesterday we talked about x and y intercepts of functions, and now it's possible for these types of functions to have 0, 1, or 2 x-intercepts. So notice that the way that we've drawn this with the shifting, this one has 2 x-intercepts, right? Like that. There's 2 of them, right? Crosses the x-axis twice. So this has no x-intercepts. And then this pink one has exactly 1 x-intercept, right? X-intercept. And there's exactly 1 of them. So again, if you've got a graph of a parabola, in other words, the graph of a quadratic function, there can be 0, 1, or 2 x-intercepts. I mean, this is related to this fact that ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 has 0, 1, or 2 solutions, real solutions. I don't mean real like existing. I mean real as in real numbers, not complex numbers. And what governs if it's 0, 1, or 2 is this thing called the discriminant, which is based off the quadratic formula, which we'll probably see in just a second or whatever. Now, what about the y-intercepts? So let's recall from yesterday, almost every graph has 1 y-intercept, right? Only if you had to fiddle with the domain could you have 0 y-intercepts. But in this case, you don't have to fiddle with the domain. It's okay to plug any number into that function, right? Remember, what can mess up the domain for us so far, we'll add things to this later, but what can mess up the domain at the moment is zeros in the denominator, negatives under square roots. There's none of that business over there, right? So the domain for these is always all real numbers. So let's just like maybe point that out. So the domain here for any quadratic function is the entire real number line minus infinity to infinity. So that means all of these graphs have a single y-intercept. That being said, some of them aren't on the picture, right? Just based off of the scale. You can see that this x-intercept is also the y-intercept, right? Which is the origin. So the x-intercept and the y-intercept are the same only when they're the origin, because that's the only place the x and the y-axis cross. The y-intercept for this blue one, I don't know, it's barely out of frame, right? It's going to be like right there. Well, there's no scale on here, right? It could be like a million. There's no scale. We have no idea. It's like a Apple presentation when they talk about their computers getting faster. There's no scale on those graphs. I'm like a weird super nerd kind of thing here. So you can't like read that. Okay, so anyway, now this green one, it's going to cross somewhere like right here or something, right? Okay, good. So now I'd like to point out that if we draw a vertical line here, so if we draw a vertical line there, then the graph is symmetric about that vertical line. Perhaps not with the drawing that I've made, which is not great. It's serviceable, but it's not great. But the graph is symmetric about that vertical line. Now, we didn't review this in class, but this is probably something that you saw in a class before. Does anyone recall like what the equation of this vertical line would be? So the equation of this vertical line is x equals h. So just the equation of horizontal lines are always y equals a number. The equation of a vertical line is always x equals a number. So this is x equals h because notice that's the x coordinate that is maintained here. So that will be one of the parts of the graph of this thing. So let's maybe discuss that. So important parts of the graph of y equals ax minus h squared plus k, aka ax squared plus bx plus c. Because either way you have this, these parts are going to be the same. Okay, so here are the important pieces of this. So maybe the first one would be the vertex. So in this case, it's not so hard to write down the vertex if you have it in vertex form. That's why it's called vertex form. Then you have this x equals h, which is known as the axis of symmetry. I mean, it's like kind of aptly named, right? Because it's the axis for which the graph is symmetric. So x equals h is the axis of symmetry. Then let's see. And other important things would be the x-intercepts. And we could like technically write down a formula for these, but let's not do that because I think writing down a formula for these makes it more of a memorization thing and less of an understanding thing. And I think it's better just to say, okay, what we need to do is solve ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, right? Remember, the x-intercepts occur when y is equal to 0. So you get that. Now, why I said we could write down a formula for those, because we've all seen like the quadratic formula sometimes in our past. So we could write down the quadratic formula if we wanted to. Okay. And then lastly, lastly would be the y-intercept. Remember, there's a single y-intercept. But let's recall that the y-intercept occurs when x is equal to 0. So we can just read off the y-intercept as 0, c. Right? Because check it out. We've got this equation right here. If we plug in x equals 0, we get y equals c. Yeah. And like we discussed before, there may be 0, 1, or 2 x-intercepts.